Good evening and welcome to the November 20th, 23 meeting of the City of Summit Zoning Board. My name is Joe Steiner and I'm the Vice Chair of the Zoning Board of Adjustment. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. In accordance with New Jersey State Statute 10:44-10, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the newspaper of record and has been posted here at City Hall. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. For the benefit of the interested public, this meeting is being live streamed to the city's YouTube page and also broadcast on Summit's government channel, which is Comcast Channel 34 and Verizon Channel 30. A transcript of this meeting is also being taken, I believe, here, as well as utilizing the speakers in the room and the microphones, so we need to have all speakers come to one of the microphones so that it is all recorded properly. Please note that the fire exits are to my right, your left, and at the back of the room where you entered. The city does have an assisted listening system to assist the hearing impaired. If anyone needs that device, please obtain it here at the dais and return it thereafter. Ms. Sulias, would you please call the roll of the members?
Sure. Chairman Spur is excused. Vice Chairman Steiner?
Here.
Ms. Newell? Here. Mr. Gonzalez?
Here.
Mr. Mullen?
Here.
Mr. Millay is excused. Mr. Loikitz?
Here.
Ms. Toth?
Here.
Ms. Sager?
Here.
Mr. Feskins?
Here.
Mr. Yuko?
Here.
You have a quorum. You may proceed.
Thank you. Andy Ball, directly to my right, is the zoning board's attorney. He will be advising the board members on matters of law and is the key interface with the applicant's attorney, if there is one. Mr. Ball does not vote on the applications. Stephanie Sulios, who you just met, is a city employee and is the zoning board secretary. She works with the applicants on preparing their applications, planning our agendas, and keeping our meeting minutes. She also does not vote on the applications. Also present at the table to my right, your left, up here in front, are Carl O'Brien and Ed Snikes, who are our board engineer and our board planner. They provide input to the board, and you'll hear us perhaps asking them questions and asking them to ask questions of certain witnesses. They provide that input to the board, but they do not vote on the applications. As you can see, we're a kind of a large board. We consist of 7 regular members and up to 4 alternates. All members can participate in the hearing tonight, but a maximum of 7 can vote. Most applications require a simple majority to be approved. If you require additional number of votes, you'll be told that before your case is heard. Each case will begin with the applicant or their attorney giving an overview of the application process and the variances that are required. We then hear from any additional expert witnesses. The applicant may have to explain the application and why the variances are needed. The board members may ask questions of the applicant, their attorney, or the expert witnesses. Once the board members and the board professionals have completed their questioning, the public will have an opportunity to ask questions. This is not the time to tell us what you think about the case. That opportunity comes at the end of the hearing. Before you ask your questions, please clearly state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address. Again, that's important for the court reporter to be able to keep a complete and accurate public record. After all the witnesses have been heard, members of the audience will get their second opportunity to speak, and at that time you may express your opinion, positive or negative, about the application. Then the public hearing is closed, and we then enter into executive session where the board members discuss the case and vote. You will be able to listen to our executive session, but you will not normally be able to participate in our discussion. Krista Anderson, the city's zoning officer, has asked that we remind all applicants to read carefully the resolution that documents the zoning board's decision and to pay particular attention to the conditions contained in that resolution. For example, if a landscaping plan is required, you must obtain one and submit it to John Linson, the city's forester. If a grading plan is required, you must have one prepared by a civil engineer and submit 3 copies along with the application fee to the city's engineering division. Failure to satisfy all the conditions in a resolution will result in a delay in approving your application, as it will cause extra work for the city's zoning staff. The resolution documenting any board decision this evening will normally be available 1 month after we decide the case. I'm now going to go down the list of the applications for this evening. I can tell you that the Kent Place School, which is the first one on the agenda, all of the processes except for the attorney's review of the from the applicant and our executive session have been completed. So there will be no public input further this evening. The second one is 86 Larnard Road, are Emmett and Regina Daly, someone here from that one? Would you please come forward and tell us whether or not you think this application can be heard? How many witnesses do you have, and how long do you think it will take? You have to come up.
Okay. We only have our architect here as our witness.
Okay, so you have one expert witness. Do you think it will take more than 30 minutes?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay, great. That's always the answer we like to
Yeah.
hear. Okay, we will get back to you as soon as we finish with the Kent Place
Okay.
School. 479 Morris Avenue, is anyone here from that? If not, we have the appropriate letter here for that particular case from Cowley Law. They represent the property owner for 479 Morris LLC. And at this time, they are considering revisions to this particular application, and they are requesting that we not hear this tonight and that we carry it to February 5th. And they have...
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, it's just a paperwork question. The fire chief's report in my packet was just blank. There was no comments or report, even though a report was referred to. Was I missing something?
I don't know, I missed that if it was. We will verify that and get back to you before the date of the February hearing, so we know it. Yeah, the chief's an important one to hear from. Okay, Stephanie, can you follow up on that for us?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and they have asked for a date, and I believe you concurred with this, Stephanie, of February 5th, which would be the next time we could hear it. Is there a motion to carry the case to that date?
Moved.
And just to clarify, they did request that it be carried without further notice. Is that what the board intends to do?
And also, they've agreed to extend the time.
Yes, they have.
So all of the appropriate little nuances of the resolution are present,
I'll second.
okay? Is this a roll call? Roll call.
Vice Chairman Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Newell?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Mullen?
Yes.
Mr. Loiketz?
Yes.
Ms. Toth?
Yes.
Ms. Sager?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. We will now go back up the agenda to Kent Place School, and I believe their attorney is present.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Peter Wolfson of the law firm of Dave Pitney. May I be seated?
Please.
First, I'd like to reiterate our thanks for the board, its professionals, and members of the public who took time to listen to our presentation and provide feedback. There's no doubt that the proposal that is before you tonight is better because of it. As a reminder, we are here on the Leadership Center for the Kent Place School, which is located at 42 Norwood Avenue and 6975 Norwood Avenue, designated as Block 1901, Lot 1, and Block 1201, Lot 1 on the official tax map. Before I get into my opening or my closing remarks, I'd like to report that a neighbor reached out to the head of school, Jennifer Galampos, last Wednesday and requested a meeting to discuss some further modifications to the application. This would be the second meeting with the neighbors. A meeting was held on Friday afternoon. From that discussion, Kent Place School would like to stipulate to the following proposed conditions in addition to those which Mr. Ball had earlier read into the record. So if I may, 1, the applicant will appoint a neighborhood liaison. The neighborhood representatives will provide a current list of contact information for the neighbors to the applicant and update it regularly. The applicant will distribute contact information for its liaison and update that to the neighbors when and if the liaison changes. A general meeting of the neighborhood, including the applicant, will be held annually. Supplementing the earlier representation that the window features on the east and north elevations of the Leadership Center would be glazed with a ceramic feature, those two areas will be modified such that 20% of the surfaces will achieve some form of opacity. Supplementing the representation regarding the installation and use of mechanized shades on these window features, those shades shall function as opaque at nighttime hours and will be tied to photosensors. Supplementing the proffered conditions on third-party usage, only summer camp activities will be conducted during summer daytime hours. During construction, a flagman will be posted as trucks approach the campus. Supplementing the enhanced landscaping around the hot box and the utilization of a dark green hot box as opposed to a metallic one, upon further inquiry, it has been determined that the hot box can be moved 10 feet to the south away from the egress entrance curb line. And finally, the applicant will extend the pillar and decorative fencing from the end of the turf field closest to the entrance to the entrance.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, we normally don't hear testimony, and this is not testimony. These seem like conditions that you are willing to add and if we were to approve this, that these are conditions that you are willing to agree to be added to any such resolution.
That's correct, sir.
Okay, just want to make sure that I understand that, and that follows policy and is not an issue for us as a board.
Correct.
We're not changing anything that we promised everybody else, that there would be no further. But we can all consider these as part of the commitment from Kent Place School.
Yes, it's not testimonial, there's no additional witnesses, no additional exhibits. The board can address any conditions as it continues to deliberate and can accept those that were just offered by the applicant, in addition to those that we previously noted at the prior hearing.
And we'll ask you to review those
I'd be happy
in
to do
its
so.
entirety when we get there.
Yes.
But why don't you complete your statement, and then we'll start our deliberations.
Thank you. This is a project to modernize the school and its facilities to meet the current needs. The arts and athletic facilities were originally constructed in 1935 and renovated in 1952. It is time to bring them into the 21st century. While the school may rent the theater to third parties from time to time, I want to emphasize that the school's primary goal is to build this building to support existing programming. The current theater does not allow for all parents and family members of performers to have a seat. Additionally, it does not allow the school to assemble the upper school, including faculty, in one place. The new theater will meet these basic school needs. The improvements proposed are located in the interior of the school's campus outside of all required setbacks. The project complies with the vast majority of the city's zoning requirements. The school has been sensitive to the surrounding community, hosting now 2 meetings, one prior to the public hearing and the one I just referred to, putting great attention into the location of the construction access and staging area, agreeing to increase the buffer along Norwood Avenue, and and to limit the use of the facilities during non-school hours, along with the other items that I just listed. The project will also increase parking capacity on site and improve efficiency and queuing during drop-off and pickup hours. In response to feedback from the neighbors, the applicant has also agreed to put the temporary construction lights on a timer such that the lights are turned off by 10 p.m. each night. The applicant presented substantial testimony on the sufficiency of parking on site, including during any third-party use of athletic or performing arts facilities. As indicated in our submission made on September 29, there are only a handful of events the school hosts during non-school hours where the school believes it will exceed on-campus parking capacity. In those instances, the school has an arrangement with the Jewish Community Center and Lincoln Hubbard Elementary School for overflow parking. These are in addition to continuing to provide adequate staffing by the school's internal security team to manage traffic and parking, continuing to work with the Summit Police, and placing neighborhood signage where and when appropriate to encourage a limit on street parking by attendees. The board heard testimony from our professionals about the reasons that the building was designed at the height proposed and the work that was done prior to making the application to reduce the height as much as possible. 30% of the roof of the new structure is under the permitted maximum height. 62.3% of the roof area is only 7.5 feet higher than the 35-foot limit, and only 7.7% of the roof area is proposed at the maximum 43.62 feet. It's also important to note that the highest point of the new structure remains under the height of two already existing buildings on campus: the field house that will remain adjacent to the addition and the middle school. And please recall that the maximum height we were talking about here is the maximum height for the R15 zone. It's a standard for single-family homes. The portions of the roof that reach the maximum height of 43.62 feet are driven by the necessary height for design and operation requirements of the gymnasium and theater space. The applicant's professionals have worked hard to depress the ground floor as much as possible given site conditions. You also heard testimony in support of the other variance relief requested as part of the application. The FAR exceedance is 0.25% over the 25% maximum. We consider this de minimis, and again, is based on a standard geared to single-family homes. As with the height, the design team took great pains to make the plan as efficient as possible in meeting the school's basic operational needs. The signage relief is de minimis, and the light fixture height variance is only necessary as an architectural feature for the downlit lights incorporated into the overhang at the entrance of the Leadership Center. We believe this project will be a benefit to all shareholders, including the surrounding community, the city, the school, and the students. Kent Place School strives to continue to be the asset it believes it has been to Summit as a first-rate educational institution, a cultural and athletic resource to the greater Summit community in a managed fashion, a responsible steward of its campus, and a responsible Summit citizen. We respectfully request an affirmative vote to approve the site plan application and grant the requested relief. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Now we go to conditions as agreed to during 3 nights of testimony, so it may be a while.
It's going to be a little while. I have 15 total conditions. The first 8 are what we had previously addressed. Numbers 9 through 15 are those that were just added by Mr. Wolfson. So first, we...
Could you just pull the mic a little closer?
Sure,
so
sure.
we can hear you?
Yep.
Thank you.
No problem. First, we have that the compliance with those conditions noted in the board engineer's memorandum. Second, a temporary parking area will be returned to grass when the construction project is finished. Third, the applicant shall submit the revised landscaping plan to the city forester for review and approval. Fourth, the variances associated with the temporary parking area will terminate upon the completion of the construction and the return of the temporary parking area to grass. Fifth, the applicants will replace the curb along Norwood Avenue, I believe, upon completion of the construction. Sixth, temporary construction lights will only be on during school days and go off at 10 p.m. Seventh, there shall be no third-party use of the facilities during school hours. Third-party use shall be limited to 6 through 9 p.m. on weekdays, 1 through 9 p.m. on Saturdays, and occasionally 8 a.m. through 9 p.m. on Sundays. There shall also be no third-party use during major events that would exceed the parking on site. Eighth, the applicants will provide an annual report to the DCS giving the numbers, dates, and activities of rentals to outside organizations. Ninth, the applicant will appoint a neighborhood liaison. The neighborhood representatives will provide a current list of contact information for the neighbors to the applicant and update it regularly. The applicant will distribute contact information for the liaison and update that to the neighbors if and when the liaison changes. A general meeting of the neighborhood, including the applicant, will be held annually. 10th, the window features on the east and north elevations of the Leadership Center would be glazed with a ceramic feature. Those two areas will be modified such that 20% of the surfaces will achieve some form of opacity. 11th, the mechanized shades on the window features shall function as opaque at nighttime hours and will be tied to photosensors. 12th, only summer camp activities will be conducted during summer daytime hours. 13th, during construction, a flagman will be posted as trucks approach the campus. 14th, the hot box has been confirmed and will be moved 10 feet to the south away from the egress entrance curb line. And the 15th and final condition I have noted is the applicant shall extend the pillar and decorative fencing from the end of the turf field closest to the entrance.
Did I also hear that the hot box color was changing?
No, I
Okay.
just reconfirmed that it'll be
Okay.
a green box and not metallic.
Okay. Those are all of the conditions that, does anybody remember anything else that we added? If not, who would like to kick us off? Claire, you did the most traveling to get here. For those of you that don't know, she just came in on a plane.
Oh dear, because I had been prepared to speak to a piece of it and not overall. I will note, Mr. Ball's, that because a school is deemed to be, remind me of the words.
Inherently beneficial.
Inherently beneficial, yay, therefore is deemed to meet the positive criteria. And please, somebody else cover all of that for me. I wanted to speak to some of the design features because at an earlier hearing, Ms. Balson had spoken about the design guidelines in the DRO. And although she's been here in her individual capacity, she is a professional. She sits on the planning board. She had a hand in writing them. However, while Kent Place School sits in the R15 zone, so does Summit High School, so does Lincoln Hubbard. Oratory Prep is in the R10 zone. All of those structures have significant flat roofs. None of them is consistent with the surrounding neighborhood in terms of architecture and design. And unlike those other three structures, this proposed building is essentially going to be hidden from the street, certainly in a much more closed campus than any of the other three schools. So I am less concerned about not meeting the design guidelines for a residential district than you might think I would be. And although it is also not a Tudor revival building, thinking to higher colleges and universities, some of our most successful schools in older cities tend to look like Hogwarts meets postmodernism, as opposed to Williamsburg. So again, that piece of it doesn't trouble me, but this is all kind of a sideshow and a, in addition argument. Somebody else really ought to be addressing the positive and negative criteria and doing the heavy lifting for me.
Thank you. This side? Go.
So kudos to the neighbors and the school for connecting after all the hearings. I think that's a positive aspect. And with the other conditions with the liaison, I think that's really positive. 'Cause listening to the hearings on the video, there was a lot of questions. So I feel more confident because there's acceptability of the new learning center. I would be prone to approve it because it's very hard to have the tutor and the modern and having all the nuances of a new center with a historic school. So I commend the architectural uplift that you've done. So with all that, I would be prone to approve it.
I think Kent Place is really in a tough spot here, right? They're landlocked. There's not a lot of room for expansion. I understand the concerns around the design, but for me, I think there's maybe 4 different architectural styles on campus. So in order to stay with the arms race that is private school education, I understand the need for this type of facility. And given the landlocked nature and the zoning conditions that a residential district provides, applying that to a commercial condition, for them to come up with a solution, I think is pretty impressive. And I agree that it's not gonna be easy to see from the street, and that they're trying to evolve their campus and to provide a modern solution to their needs makes all the sense in the world to me. I think the gymnastics they had to perform in order to get this even close to zoning conditions written up for single-family homes is quite an achievement. So when you put all that together, I can see approving this solution.
I'll take an alternative view, just to make this interesting, I guess. So I sat through the hearings, read the transcripts, and what I come away with is Kent Place wants to build what they want to build. And you know what? They have the benefit of inherently beneficial use and satisfying the positive criteria. So there's really not much of a basis to decline this based upon that. You can say what you want about not liking the architecture or whatever. Ultimately, the architecture isn't going to satisfy that burden, and you're leaving yourself open to being overturned on appeal if you decline this based on that. However, a displeasing visual element, if you take that viewpoint, is not the only negative impact of this project. We mentioned oratory prep. I drive down Bedford a lot when they're having events, and if anyone's driven down Bedford when oratory's having an event, you'll note that Bedford is completely parked up, and it's a real hassle getting down there. And I could easily foresee those same conditions occurring at Kent Place, especially, and this is what most concerns me about this application, during the third-party events. I appreciate the applicant's willingness to add additional conditions. However, there's no enforcement mechanism associated with those conditions. So once a year, they can have a meeting and get yelled at by the community, and then they'll walk away and have more events. Once a year, someone can call their traffic warden, and then the traffic warden will say, oh yeah, I'm handling it. And the event will be over, some will be inconvenienced, you might have a fender bender or two, probably nothing more major, but that is a negative impact on the neighborhood. And all of these things, once this thing is built, once these conditions are put into effect, are effectively irreversible. And it seems to me this thing could have been built with some tweaks and maybe gotten within, you know, the bulk requirements where a variance wasn't necessarily required. I know it wouldn't have been everything that Kent Place wanted, but they could have gone that route. They chose this route, but now we have to consider the negative impacts. And, you know, I'm still wrestling with this, but I'm in my mind, I'm wondering, does it rise to that level to negate the inherently beneficial use? And I don't know, but to deny that that exists, I think it isn't a full consideration of this application.
I'd like to chime in a little bit on that too,
And
because.
Mr. Yuko, if I could just jump
Sure.
in to address one thing briefly. I know traffic was just raised as a potential concern, and I do want to offer brief guidance to the board. So existing traffic conditions alone is not something that the board should be considering solely to reject any application. The board's focus should be on the safe ingress and egress from this particular site and whether this application is going to result in a traffic hazard or an exacerbation of the immediately surrounding traffic. So to that extent, maybe Mr. Mullen, if you don't mind elaborating on,
Sure.
on that.
So my concern is you have a facility that's been expanded, and you have third-party events that will come in and increase the intensity of the use of that facility. So, you know, hypothetically, if before you had 50 cars on the street, now you might have 100 cars on the street. And we all know traffic flow is difficult on Norwood anyhow. And it's just, in my opinion, increasing the intensity of the use will likely make it worse. And that's the negative impact I'm most concerned with.
Mr. Yuko?
Yeah, I was just going to actually, on some of the same issues, because that is my main concern with this application as well, is the impact in terms of people who choose to park off-site. The applicant does meet the parking requirements. They have enough parking on-site that they are required to have for the events they're going to have. It's obviously beyond their direct control to say that people shouldn't park on the side streets. They can't directly control that. And I guess the issue I'm struggling with is how much of that can we base a negative vote on, in that the applicant is meeting the parking requirements. It's really probably up to the governing body, the police department or somebody, to enforce or change rules for parking on side streets if people choose not to park in the parking that the school has made available. So again, I'm balancing that as well. It's, you know, how much of that can we appropriately, could we base a denial on and risk being overturned versus, you know, because the applicant has met their burden. They've met their burden of providing parking as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I agree with you, but, you know, you'd like to see them when they have an event, you know, just park a couple tow trucks outside, and that might disincentivize parking.
And to follow up on that point as well, to the extent people are not voluntarily, but are choosing to park in surrounding streets where it is legal to park there, again, that's not something that the board should fault this applicant for. That is something that can be considered by the governing body to enforce different parking restrictions or to address those infrastructure changes. So just keep that in mind in your deliberations.
Seja?
I would like to agree with Ms. Newell that I think that it was a very positive thing that the neighbors reached out to the school, that the school was willing to take a meeting and make some positive commitments that seemingly satisfied the neighbors. I guess if I was a neighbor, parking and traffic aside, and I walked by this property on a regular basis, I would be bothered by what I consider to be a somewhat careless approach to the landscaping and the care that that is taken on the perimeter of the campus. Right now, I'm looking at the colored landscape plan, which is very nice looking for the campus, but it seems to be a lot of focus and new plantings on the center of campus, around the new building, around the new parking area, around the entrance. But really, as you go, I guess it would be south along Norwood towards downtown, and then along Morris Ave, there is nothing new, nothing changing in terms of landscaping from my, and I've walked that perimeter a couple of times, and it's not cared for. There's no landscaping continuity at all. There's just a lot of kind of some old trees and some volunteer trees and some weeds. And it would bother me if I felt like this neighbor was putting a lot of investment into what I think personally is going to be a fairly attractive building and a very needed building. But I am looking at something that is very unattractive, and I would like to see a little bit more screening around the perimeter of the campus that the neighbors actually walk by. Not just the perimeter and of the new building envelope and the entrance.
Mr. Chairman, I know you're in deliberations.
No, what?
I'll jump in, I can jump, if you want to clarify real quick. But
You want to clarify something?
I just wanted to indicate that, which I'm sure the board's aware of, that if there's a particular concern, that, like the conditions that have been laid out, can be addressed by a condition
By one of these, you mean?
or additional.
The condition.
If the board would like to see any additional conditions imposed in the application, I
We
think
can do
applicant's
that.
counsel is asking that they be asked, and they would consider any of those, in addition to everything else we have.
before we do that, can I just,
Please.
yeah. So I'll keep mine very short and sweet here, because I think I agree with what everyone has so far said, and what Andy has re-articulated. We're pretty much bound by just case law here. We can only consider the beneficial use, which is an inherently beneficial use to a school. And I think that has been articulated and supported several times throughout this whole process. If I was a stickler for the rules, I would just say, yeah, okay, boom, done. Like, that's it, case closed. I think Camp Place has gone above and beyond by reaching out to the community and trying to get everyone on board with this project, and that's fantastic. I think a lot of the negative criteria has been not disproven. I think it just hasn't been proven that there's a lot of negative criteria to overcome. I don't think that the shrubbery is necessarily something that's gonna outweigh the beneficial conditions of a school. I don't think that necessarily the architecture, if we're looking just strictly at a school is a school. I can just put a shoebox there. It's a school, it should pass. Like other schools have passed for less. But again, kudos.
But it is within our purview to make
It is
the
correct.
project
Correct.
as good as possible for
We
the
serve- we
neighborhood
serve our city, we
and
serve our
the
town.
whole
Correct.
city.
So
Yes, I
what-
agree.
We can,
What condition
comment.
would the two of you like to see put on, that asked of them?
No.
And then, you're none, you
I
have
would like,
something.
I would like to see some additional landscaping effort put in the perimeter of the
Would that be,
campus.
could we phrase that in the presentation to John Linson of an
Yes.
updated landscaping plan for the,
To enhance the
to enhance,
perimeter of the campus.
the border of the,
Yes. The
not just the
absolute
building, but the whole,
exterior
the campus border.
campus exterior border.
Does that, how would that,
will work with the forester, right?
Yes, that's fine.
Can we, and is the board agreeable to adding all of that? Okay?
So, and just to note, previously, we had a condition that a revised landscaping plan would be submitted to the city forester for review and approval. And that condition will be modified slightly, just to say that the applicants will submit a revised landscaping plan, which shall include supplemental screening around the perimeter of the campus to the city forester for review and approval.
And can I ask
That's fine.
clarification, is specifically the area that's being under construction in the application, or do you mean something more than, you mean the entire?
I said the entire campus.
That's what I thought you said. I
That's
wasn't,
what I
is that
said.
you meant? Okay.
So that if there's a negative area elsewhere around it, we're correcting it.
Okay.
Is that
Yes.
your understanding?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay, anyone else wish to comment?
I mean, I don't know how you're gonna condition around the third-party events, other than greater restrictions.
I-
And if you wanna restrict them to 0, or restrict them to a certain number per year, or have that meeting that has to
think- I
occur
think
annually
that-
have teeth, you know, I think that is something where you could manage the issue. But to have it open-ended, that's something, I
Well-
do think is a material negative condition.
Well, I think that goes back to what Andy had said, that that's really the governing body's decision, not ours. In a sense, you're suggesting we write regulations in the place of legislation.
That's not it.
And-
What I'm suggesting is the applicant agreeing to future action that they're binding themselves to will mitigate the potential negative impacts, which I view as potentially substantial.
It's like when we have bylaws for co-ops.
Right.
I don't know how you articulate what that binding looks like. I mean, the real solution is to have the parking rules changed on Norwood Avenue, at
Which
least
we
in the
can't-
evenings.
which we can't
And we
deal with.
can't do that. And I mean, that's the real solution.
Claire, you opened up with saying that somebody else should cover you. Did you get covered, or do you have something else to bring up?
I don't have anything else.
I mean,
to
you
add.
could limit, large third-party events to X number of times a year or something like that. I'm not proposing that.
I would defer to the
But-
applicant to come up
I-
with something.
Don't think we can do that, though. I think we made that, our attorney made it clear we can't regulate those things.
We already have third-party events.
We do.
Yes.
We do, and we attempted in a number of ways to offer controls on that will keep the parking demand within that which is under your ordinance provided for already. We added another one tonight in terms
Right, you
of
didn't
summer
limit
camp.
volume of events, though, did you?
No, but
So how many
But-
per year do you have?
I don't know that,
We,
but
that was brought up in testimony, and they,
It was a while ago.
well, yeah, a long time ago. And
But did we
We-
get an answer during the testimony on that? I seem to recall
They
that
didn't.
they didn't know.
they did not know.
I-
There was not
There wasn't,
and they didn't know how many they'd have in the future. Depends upon how many, what their requests,
Mhm.
what other groups might
Well,
request.
and therefore, we've got the requirement for the annual report
Right.
listing the number and size of the events. And again, we know city government moves slowly, but that gives that gives the governing body the information it needs if it determines that there should be some legislative changes.
As we control drainage for 2 years on something like that, can we make sure that that the governing body receives this report for a number of years to come, so that it then sees that there's something happening properly or not properly? and then can take action as required?
So that annual report is to be submitted to the DCS, and that's a condition of this
That's
resolution.
the
So-
Department of Community Services,
Yes.
for anybody who wants to know that.
Yes, and if they fail to comply with that, zoning officer can issue summonses for failing to live up to the conditions of the resolution.
And can we make sure that the report includes the number of,
The number, dates, and activities of rentals to outside organizations.
does that give us then a way of making sure that our governing body is aware and can take whatever appropriate actions are necessary?
I mean, you're placing a lot on the governing body there. I hear you.
Well, we're supposed to, right? I don't want it on us,
I
okay?
get you're trying to convince me here.
And I don't know how
I
many,
mean, honestly, like Diana was bringing up before, the question was asked, it was never answered, which
Right.
isn't great. They didn't do a traffic study or anything to really address this.
Because they're
And
not required
There's
to.
a condition that they agreed to after the fact, which of course, anything is an improvement. I just don't feel like there's any sufficient bound on this, and you can provide all the reports you want, getting people to act, that, once you get into the political realm, anything can happen. And, I am concerned when you put something in there, it messes up the neighborhood. I see it every couple of weeks on Bedford when I drive by and almost hit something as oratory is having an event.
Mr. Chairman, just because this hearing has been extended, can I just remind everybody, including myself, the significant conditions on third-party rentals that are already proposed?
You have a problem with that?
Not at all.
Okay.
No third-party use of the facility, no third-party use during school hours. Third-party use is limited to 6 to 9 on weekdays, 1 through 9 on Saturdays, and occasionally 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Sundays. Also, no third-party use during major events that would exceed the parking on site, and the annual report that we just spoke about. So we offered a number of very concrete conditions, and as Mr. Ball indicated, there's a reason that there are conditions
Okay.
to an approval, and that is they can be enforced.
Okay. Mr. Fisher, Jeff, I think you're the only one who hasn't chimed in yet.
No, there's a lot of things that have been raised that I agree with a number of these, the benefits and the concerns. I look at this as a scenario where, frankly, as a litigation point of view, and understanding what we can and cannot approve. I think the applicant went through a lot of exercise to mitigate and to minimize the requests. And I can't see how, frankly, our jurisdiction and our approval of this could not be approved. So I'm in favor.
Okay. Anyone else have anything to say? I'll tell you that I came in here thinking that initially, before these other conditions were brought in, that I was not going to vote in favor of this. That I thought the neighborhood had made a good enough case that the negatives were going to be a problem for them. But the fact that I always love it when the neighbors get together with the applicant and say, we need to do the following things to do it. And then a lot of the neighbors, I kind of thought we'd get applause or cheers or whatever. We didn't get anything, but we did get a lot of people sitting here seeming to agree that we were going in the right direction. And therefore, I changed my mind, and I believe that this application has done enough to warrant its approval. And with that, I would.
If I may just jump in very briefly.
And add one more thing.
And,
That's what we have attorneys for.
I
Add that
just-
one more thing.
So we do have an inherently beneficial designation, but we also have here a D4 floor area ratio and a D6 height variance. They have particular standards that the site can accommodate the proposed increases in use. And I'd just like to hear from the board members their thoughts on whether this site can accommodate those increases in FAR and height, and whether there's any concerns in the board's eyes about
In
those.
my mind, there wasn't. It was something that I didn't have a problem seeing the height or the FAR change by the minimal numbers that they were talking about.
Yeah,
Anyone else?
I agree. I think those variances were relatively small and really not a significant
We're
concern.
not talking about half an acre, we're talking about 18 acres, right? So the scale is relative.
Right.
Physically, I agree that this site couldn't accommodate that use. It's-
Right. And certainly with the height compared to other buildings on campus and how the applicant has worked to minimize the portions of the building that exceed the height limits. And the FAR is the FAR, but the site can handle it.
Okay, hearing that and getting all of that on the table, I would entertain a motion to approve this application, and I believe it requires 5 affirmative votes.
That's
Which is
correct.
why it got put off a couple of times, because we didn't have 7 members. Okay, is there a motion?
I'll move to approve as proposed with all those conditions.
Second.
It's a roll call vote.
Ms. Newell?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Mullen?
No.
Mr. Loiketz?
Yes.
Ms. Toth?
Yes.
Ms. Sager? Yes. Vice Chairman Steiner?
Yes,
The motion carries.
thank you.
I'd like to thank the board and its professionals for your consideration and for the approval, and wish you all happy holidays.
Thank you. Do we need to take a quick break to let people leave?
I would
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break for people to go. And then we will bring up the final applicant, which is Emmett and Daley, and Regina Daley, 86 Larned. The only reason I use that is because it wakes him up in the back. We are ready to continue with the 86 Larned Road, Emmett and Regina Daly. We will swear you in as the applicants, and
If you could each raise your right hand, do you swear from the testimony you're about to give in this matters, the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? And one at a time, please state your name, spell your last name.
Regina Daly, D-A-L-Y.
Emmett Daly, E-M-M-E-T-T, Daly, D-A-L-Y.
okay. If you could explain to us why you're here and what the major points of your application are, and why you're looking for this approval.
Okay. So, as I said, we are Regina and Emma Daly. We've lived in Summit now for 29 years, and the home we're referring to today is our third home in Summit. Our 3 children were born here, attended Summit schools, and thankfully have moved out. When we were looking to downsize from the home where we raised these kids, we saw 86 Larned Road, and we fell in love with it because of the neighborhood and the proximity to Memorial Field, a neighborhood that we knew well from all the years of youth soccer and children at Brayton School. After purchasing our house, we had hoped to make the house more suitable to our needs. Specifically, we were interested in enhancing our kitchen and the primary bedroom, bathroom. Our project has, we were approved, the permits were approved in June, and we started work soon thereafter, and again, thankfully, we're nearing completion of that current project. We didn't need a variance for the work that is currently being done, but the plans that were approved had the air conditioning unit drawn in the front of the house. We felt that it was more suitable to locate the air conditioning condenser closer to where our current air conditioning unit is and our generator on the side of our house. We also felt that the front portico by our front door, while we like the look of it, it does not provide any coverage for people or packages that are left at our front door when it rains. People and packages get wet. We have spoken to all 3 of our neighbors about this variance. The neighbors on either side of us, and then the neighbor across the street, and all are in support of the proposal. We have brought our architect, Kim Tone, with us today.
Okay, any questions for the applicant from the board? Okay, then, go ahead.
No, it was just in the previous variance to the prior owners, it was the neighbor, I just wanted to be sure it was the neighbor behind you on Watchung who was concerned about the porch interrupting her view of Memorial Field. So is that one of the neighbors with whom you spoke, or is that person moved on?
I think it's a new owner.
Okay.
And we did speak with them.
Okay.
And they spent time on their porch.
Mhm.
And they actually, after having a conversation with me, and I showed them both where the current one, the drawings showed the air conditioning versus where we hope to put it, they will see they will not see the air conditioning unit if we put it where we hope to put it after the variance. So they were in favor of it.
Good. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, if not, we'll please call your witness, and we will swear you in and get your credentials and all that good stuff.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matters, the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name, spell your last name.
Kimberly Tone, T-O-N-E.
Thank you, and you've appeared before us a number of times,
Yes.
including recently. Any changes to your credentials since the last time you were here?
No changes.
All right, license still in good standing.
Yes, it is.
I imagine the board would accept you once again.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. So, as Regina mentioned, we're here for a variance for the portico for building coverage, and we're also here for a setback variance for an air conditioning condenser. The paperwork that I just handed out to you is a little bit of housekeeping. There was a little error in our zoning chart, and I'll explain that to you. The building coverage variance before, when we submitted, was 20.25%. The drawings represent the portico that we want, but in design, we had actually been playing around with the size of that and whether or not we could avoid a variance. And then at the last minute before we submitted, we drew the portico the way it exists today with the 8.75 by 6.87. The building coverage number doesn't reflect that. It's 8.7 square feet short of the number. So the building coverage number goes from 20.25% to 20.32. We're actually adding, we had originally stated that we were adding 33.73. We're actually adding 42.5 square feet of building coverage. There is no change in lot coverage because it's over an existing stoop. So this document that I distributed just changes the building coverage number. There's no change to any other zoning statistic.
Okay, known as A1 for the record.
Okay. So this is sheet V1 that was originally submitted, the application. This is where the portico is. There's currently about a 17.5-foot covered area that sticks out a little more than 2 feet that's arched. We are proposing to change that to a shed roof and cover the entire 8.75 wide by 6.87 deep existing stoop with a portico so that in inclement weather, Regina mentioned packages, people, so that it's a little bit safer and it's covered from the weather and it protects the packages and people from the environment. There is no, as I said, there is no change in lot coverage since it's over an existing stoop. The air conditioning condenser, there is a current air conditioning condenser on the side of the house closer to the front. The original location approved with the permit was supposed to be in front of the house because it's conforming. Since this side of the house is set back just about 25 feet, the previous owner had gotten a variance for the generator over there, and I think it seems like from reading the ordinance, or the resolution, that the air conditioning condenser that's there now, the existing one, was actually added to that variance. Approval was probably added. It wasn't specifically stated in the resolution how that came about. And then what we're proposing is to put an air conditioning condenser behind there rather than to put it in the front. We felt we would extend the fence that's along the side, extend the landscaping, supplement the landscaping, and hopefully come up with a better solution than putting it in the front yard. So that was the two things that I wanted to address about what the variances are for. This is set back, the new condenser will be set back 20 feet as opposed to the 25-foot required from Watchung Place. The dimension from Larned is over 60 feet, so it conforms from that street. There were some notes in the staff comments about the leader drains and connecting them to the dry well. I spoke to Bill Hollows, who did the original submittal. The drainage that was proposed from the roof on the addition at the back to connect into the dry well, which is at the front of the house over here, was something that was required as part of the permit for the addition, not the portico. So that's there not because of what we are doing today, but what we were doing before. The engineer had the city engineer had requested that. I don't know if it was the assistant engineer or the city engineer, but it was requested as part of the permit approval for the addition that's currently being constructed.
Go ahead.
Just a question for you. So is those roof leaders that tie into that dry well, is it only coming off the rear of the house where the new portico is going, or is it coming off the front as well?
I think originally it was probably coming off of the front.
Okay.
And that there was one leader that it was at the back that wasn't tied into it for the main part of the house, but they asked to tie in the roof leaders to the addition
Yeah,
into
it
the
was
driveway.
probably stubbed off.
Right.
So now with the proposed going in,
Bill,
we're looking to connect back into that.
right,
That would-
right. And Bill Hollows and the city engineers, Bill said he checked the capacity and that it was adequate for
Okay. For
the
what you're looking
requirements.
at. Got it.
Yeah, what we're gonna have.
Okay.
So you're all right with that?
Yeah, I'm okay with that, yes.
Okay. Any other questions that you have?
Well,
As long as we have you up?
yes, yeah. You mentioned a letter, you reviewed it. Do you have any?
I don't have any other
concerns?
concerns with meeting anything in that.
Yeah, the only major concern that we had was drainage, but it was addressed. Other than that, I'll let her continue. Sorry for interrupting.
No, that's fine.
That's fine. I don't have a lot more to offer. I think that, what we're trying to do is fairly modest in size. It does complement the style of the house. I know the Historic Preservation Commission didn't have strong objections, but likes the old roof. It's just not as functional as we'd like it to be. We like it too, but we just felt that this was an appropriate design for the style of the house and a better function.
Okay, one of our standard conditions is that the engineer's letter is a standard condition, is do you accept all the points on it? Hopefully that's acceptable to you.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions from
I
you?
do have one more.
Go ahead.
For the portico, anything going on with lighting back there?
For the portico,
Yes.
there'll probably be a light fixture in the center of the ceiling.
Okay. Nothing like spotlights on the side?
Not spotlights, it's all
And whatever's put up will
be appropriate for the.
be appropriate to the city statute.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any questions from board members for the architect? No? Okay, anybody from the public here? The laugh is because the room is empty other than for us, for those listening on audio. Do you have anything else in conclusion? Nope, okay. Then at that point, conditions?
Just R1, compliance with the conditions noted in the board engineer's memorandum.
Okay. Who would like to start?
Okay. You made me do it once.
I'll make
I
you
mean,
do it twice.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of these where I almost feel embarrassed that we're making you come in to talk to us. I mean, the air conditioning unit, yeah, you have 2 front yards, sorry about that. And it makes sense to group them all together. And I am always a big fan of not standing in the rain, particularly when you're not increasing your lot coverage. The building coverage is fractional, and certainly the lot can handle it, and the house can handle it. So I can support this application.
It promotes a pleasing visual element with no discernible detrimental effect, therefore I am in favor.
In the vogue of the neighborhood?
Yes.
Yes.
What about the increased traffic?
I think the second to come-
Anyone from this side?
No comment. De minimis,
We
you're
would,
here.
okay, I think we can, based upon everything we've heard tonight, would someone like to move this
So moved.
particular one for approval?
Done. So moved, second.
Okay, roll call, please. She has to write it, I was. We lost it, okay.
Okay. Ms. Newell? Yes. Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Mullen?
Aye.
Mr. Loikis?
Yes.
Ms. Toth?
Yes.
Ms. Sager?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Steiner?
Yes,
The motion carries.
thank you, good luck with your project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are going to continue with a number of things that we have to do administratively, so we will, let's try to get through the resolutions, please. Stephanie, you're up.
Okay. So the first resolution we have is a resolution for memorialization. It's 10 Sherman Avenue, Amanda Parisi and Sharon Poole, ZB-23-2196, Block 1204, Lot 15. The eligible voting members are Chairman Spur, Ms. Newell, Mr. Gonzalez, Mr. Mullen, Mr. Loikis, Ms. Toth, Mr. Feskins. Can I have a motion?
Second.
I'm sorry, who's second? Okay. Ms. Newell? Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Mullen?
Yes.
Mr. Loikett?
Yes.
Ms. Toth?
Yes.
Mr. Feskins?
Yes.
The motion carries. The next one we have is 66 Park Avenue. That's Edward Doherty, ZB-23-2202, Block 4005, Lot 4. The eligible voting members are Chairman Spur, Ms. Newell, Mr. Gonzalez, Mr. Mullen, Mr. Loikett, Ms. Toth, and Mr. Feskins. Can we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Wally can have it.
Okay, gotcha. Ms. Newell?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Mullen?
Yes.
Mr. Loikett?
Yes.
Ms. Toth?
Yes.
Mr. Feskins?
Yes.
The motion carries. The next one we have is 145 Oak Ridge Avenue, Francesco Alessi, ZB-23-2206, Block 4802, Lot 9. The eligible voting members are Chairman Spur, Ms. Newell, Mr. Gonzalez, Mr. Mullen, Mr. Loikett, Ms. Toth, and Mr. Feskins. Can we have a motion?
Second.
Okay. Ms. Newell?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Mullen?
Yes.
Mr. Loikett?
Yes.
Ms. Toth?
Yes.
Mr. Feskins?
Yes.
The motion carries. The next one we have is 7 Manor Hill Road. That's Benjamin Block, ZB-23-2203, Block 3103, Lot 8. The eligible voting members are Chairman Spur, Ms. Newell, Mr. Gonzalez, Mr. Mullen, Ms. Toth, Mr. Feskins. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Ms. Newell,
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
Ms. Toth,
Yes.
Mr. Feskins.
Yes.
The motion carries. So the next one is a resolution for extension.
And that is, we have a letter from Marianne Espinoza explaining why she was unable to secure the services of a contractor to get a building permit within a year. This is the first request for same from this applicant, and you have prepared the appropriate resolution, which was distributed to the membership.
Yes, and it would grant the extension through December 1st, 2024.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Vice Chairman Steiner,
Yes.
Ms. Newell,
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
Mr. Loikett,
Yes.
Ms. Toth,
Yes.
Ms. Sager.
Yes.
The motion carries.
And the next one is the resolution of denial.
So that's 3 Drum Hill Drive, Antonio Rivas Cortez, ZB-23-2181, Block 5601, Lot 5. The eligible voting members are Chairman Spur, Ms. Newell, Mr. Gonzalez, and Mr. Mullen. Can I have a motion?
Can I vote? 'Cause
I
voted
I
in
was
favor
there.
of that one.
Bernie,
Yeah,
how do we
does that
vote?
work?
No.
Wait a minute, yes, you're listed on the resolution as opposed,
Yeah.
which
Alright,
were
so-
Scott, Claire, and Jay were listed as opposed, so she listed only those that were in favor of voting no. In other words, they rejected this.
Wait a minute.
Right.
But I rejected it.
Yeah.
You
And I-
rejected,
and I-
Scott?
Yeah.
I was in favor of
I
it.
voted in favor.
No.
Yeah, you were. In favor were Chairman Spur, Elizabeth Newell, Walter Gonzalez, and David Mullen. Opposed were Scott, Claire, and Jay.
No, I thought, no, I thought Steve voted negative.
We were in favor of approving.
Yes,
the application.
vote, roll call on
No.
motion to approve.
But it was
Yeah.
because it was a D
And I
variance,
think
we
this
didn't have
is an
5.
error.
That's why it got rejected.
Okay.
Because I remember
There were
Mr.
4 who voted yes,
Spur
3 who
voted
voted
no.
no.
All right, in that case, I'm going to hold this resolution until the next meeting when we can get it appropriately worded, because we don't know.
No, I think we
What-
figured it
No,
out,
I
but-
thought we were okay. I think there were 4
Yeah.
in favor, but needed 5.
Correct.
Right.
Right, and when I voted no, then Steve ended up voting no as a result. of
I
not
just
voting.
think I'm better off holding off and getting it If we have to go back and listen to the tape, we will.
Give me 1 minute to take.
Okay, we'll take the minute. In the meantime, I'll take the minutes of, oh, I can't because she's involved in this too. The minutes of the meeting for the November 6th.
Basically. Right. We were still in favor of the resolution.
Correct.
Tomorrow.
And we're in favor
Yeah.
of not having come to an agreement on that motion.
Yeah, but
And it
the
begs
resolution
question, if you
denies
voted
the thing.
against an application.
I always thought you,
I'm in favor of the resolution.
I always thought you could, if you voted on it, I always thought you could vote on the resolution saying it was okay.
Yeah.
But I've been told that that's not the way it works.
Well, no, we all read the resolution, we agree that the resolution reflects what we're voting,
And how
That
much
it
time do we
says.
spend down there?
Right.
which it
That's-
says 4 in favor, 3 opposed, didn't pass.
Right.
Yeah. I firmly
But
support that
that's-
recitation of events.
Oh, boy,
I,
are we.
I read that one resolution.
Okay, all right, back, let's get back to order, please.
And my recollection is that this is correct, but Mr. Spur was, I believe he voted no, but what we could do is I'll go back and double check the transcript just to confirm and update that list, and hold that one to the next hearing.
All right, we'll just hold it to the next hearing if everyone agrees. And even if you don't agree, we're gonna do it.
Okay.
Okay, can we go to the minutes of the last meeting?
So the next we have are the minutes from November 6th. Can we do a voice vote, but we'll exclude the members who were not present that evening, which were Mr. Malay, Mr. Mullen, Mr. Loikitz, Mr. Gonzalez, and Ms. Toad. Can I have a motion? And a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great.
Okay, thank you all. We are
That's amazing.
going to meet again on December the 4th. And we are, if I'm right, adjourned. Thank you all.
And were you getting-